What's up, everybody? This is the Sports League Podcast, back for another week. I'm your host, Alex Leak. We got the co-host, Amanda, back on the show. Good to have you, as always.
Good to be here as always, ready to talk some football.
Hell yeah, and let's get into week 4 of the 2023 NFL season and start off with a London game. I was excited. I love the 9:30 a.m. kickoff. 2-1 Falcons at the 1-2 Jags. And we wanted to see Jacksonville kind of like show up, that they haven't done kind of all season so far. They jump out to a 17-0 halftime lead and win easily 23-7 over the Falcons. What are your thoughts on this game? Really, to me, what stood out is Desmond Ridder doesn't look that good.
Yeah, I predicted that. I mean, I called them, I think, hopeless offensively last
Mm-hmm.
week, and I mean that's still running strong. He played worse than he has in his past 7 starts, which is impressive. I mean, previously he had 1 interception over his 7 starts, and he threw 2 of them this week on back-to-back passes, which is impressive on its own. I mean, the Jags finally showed up and played 4 quarters of the game. That's the first time we've seen them do that all season. So finally, they're getting into a rhythm, and London's their home stadium. The Jags play
Yeah,
so well there. So I was expecting them to play well. Um, they came in hot the first quarter. That's the first time this season that they've actually done anything in the first quarter. So I think that was great for them. Trevor Lawrence looked comfortable in the pocket. He made big plays. He was on the run. He was moving. I think he ended with 42 rushing yards on 8 carries. 4 of them were for first down conversions. So
nice.
I think he played really well. Especially with Zay Jones being out. I was surprised to see how well he played, leaning on Christian Kirk and Evan Ingram, despite that loss for the week.
Yeah, I kind of expected Calvin Ridley to have a bigger game. I mean, he was solid, but nothing crazy. Trevor Lawrence, nice to see him bounce back and play well. Desmond Ridder, 3 turnovers, 2 picks, a fumble loss, and he looks bad. At this point, would you be considering going to Taylor Heinicke if you're the Falcons? I mean, 2-2, not a terrible record, but Ridder just doesn't look that offense is loaded. You got Bijan Robinson, Kyle Pitts, Drake London, and they're just I expect a lot more out of that offense, and he's not getting it done.
Yeah, I think they've snaked away with some wins they shouldn't have had. I think their record looks way better than the team is.
Mm-hmm.
And I absolutely agree with, putting some thought this week into whether or not they should be sticking with their current starting quarterback or just testing the waters. I mean, maybe put him in for a quarter next week and see how he does. Because neither one of them are starting quarterback material at this point. So I mean, what's the harm at
Yeah, I think Taylor Heinicke is a good backup, but yeah, he's not a franchise quarterback. He's not an every week starter. He's got a 12-12-1 record as a starter, so exactly 500. I think I'd wait on and with Ritter until you're 2-2. So it's been ugly so far, but have a home game against the Texans. If you win that, then you're 3-2. If you lose, then you're 2-3. I think if he gets a 2-4, then you make a move and you go to Heinicke. But the Falcons are still hoping that they can develop Ritter into a franchise quarterback. And if you bench him, that's really going to hurt his confidence going forward. You agree with that?
I mean, hurt his confidence or make him play with a chip on his shoulder. I mean, we've
Yeah,
seen
one
it
way or the
happen
other.
with other
Yeah,
quarterbacks. Either it'll, ignite the fire and make them want to be more competitive, or it'll hurt their feelings, and then they're probably not cut out for the NFL anyway.
yeah, that's true. Would
Um,
you, what do you think about Kyle Pitts? He was a star at Florida. When the Falcons drafted him, we expected him to be one of the best tight ends in the NFL. Just 11 catches so far this season. He's been underwhelming since he came into the league. I just think the Falcons don't know how to use him. If I'm the Falcons, I would trade him, and you should get pretty good trade value back from that.
yeah, I was gonna say I don't think that's his fault. I think that's play design and the current quarterback they have and that offensive line not giving them enough time to make the plays they need to make.
Yeah,
I think he still is every bit as good as we expect him to be. I just don't think he's in the right system.
I agree 100%. They're going to like is that Jonnu Smith? They're like feeding him instead of Kyle Pitts.
Yeah, I thought that
So
was interesting, but he seems to have a better connection with Ridley for now. So, I mean, we'll see how that plays out.
you mean
One
Drake
thing that,
London, yeah,
yeah, one
yeah,
thing that did look good for Atlanta, Bijan Robinson totaled 105 yards on 14 carries, which I mean, we've liked him all season. So it's nice
mm-hmm,
that he's, he is what we thought he was. And then there were some international firsts made for the NFL. The Jaguars pass rusher Josh Allen became the first player to record 3 sacks in a game overseas, and their safe
nice.
Darius Williams recorded the longest pick six in international game history with a 61-yard touchdown. So
Hell
some
yeah.
highlights from the week.
Yeah, he's a good player. Darius Williams, that's his first interception since 2020. So nice to see him get back in the stat column there. Um, yeah, I mean, Bijan Robinson's everything we thought he was going to be. He reminds me of prime Saquon Barkley, prime Todd Gurley. He's an absolute stud.
Yeah, he's been playing great.
Yep. All right, let's go to the game of the week. What was anticipated to be the 3-0 Dolphins at the 2-1 Bills. Both teams come in red hot, and I couldn't wait. All eyes were on this game. The Bills jump out to a 31-14 halftime lead and win comfortably 48-20. How impressed are you by this Bills team right now? They're hitting on all cylinders. Andre Reed's got to be happy. This looks like a Super Bowl team right now.
Oh, I am stoked. I love the Bills. I love Josh Allen. I've been pulling for them for a couple of years now. I mean, I predicted a high scoring game. I predicted it would be closer. So the Bills heard me out on the high scoring, the Dolphins not so much.
Mm-hmm.
But it was such a great game. I mean, Josh Allen continues his perfect streak at home versus Miami. He improved to 7-0. He's now 10-2 with Miami overall.
Nice.
So he was definitely the MVP of this game for sure. Like he finished 20 yards on 21 attempts, or 20 yards with 21 of 25 attempts and 4 touchdowns. Perfect passer rating. I mean, it was beautiful.
Yeah, he's hitting on all cylinders, and credit to the Bills defense. The Dolphins have looked great. They're coming off a 70-point performance, and I had questions about how well they're, like you thought, it's going to be high scoring. I think both expected the Dolphins to put up 30 plus, and for
Hmm.
the Bills defense to hold them to just 20 is a great result, a great performance.
Yeah, I mean they still put up almost 400 yards.
Mm-hmm.
So they were definitely slowed, and then the Bills defense came through when it mattered. As far as scoring plays, they stopped a lot of third down conversions. But they still ran all over the field. There was, no first downs allowed on 4 straight second quarter Miami drives, which definitely blew that lead wide open for the Bills there. So the defense was pleasantly surprising for Buffalo for me.
Yeah, some bad news though for the Bills. They lose star corner Tre'Davious White for the season with a torn Achilles. That's a big deal. That's a big loss. Now, some good news, Von Miller expected back soon, but it sucks to see Tre'Davious White, one of my favorite corners in the league, go out
Mhm.
for the season.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a tough loss. We've seen a lot of those Achilles injuries this year, and
Hmm.
they're just hitting teams at the wrong time.
Yeah.
Speaking
Yes.
of players who were, covering injuries, Kader Kohu, I think I don't know how to
Yeah.
say his name. Yeah, he
Uh.
was he was severely outmatched. I mean, they only had him on Stefon Diggs because of other injuries, but Stefon Diggs ran all over him. He had 7 targets. He caught 6 of them for 120 yards, 3 touchdowns. I mean, that poor kid was so outmatched, but he
Mhm.
tried. I'm gonna give him, an A for effort there. But I think the Dolphins were a bit outmatched there on their defense because I know they've got some injuries too. But it'll be interesting to see how the Bills are moving forward with veteran Von Miller coming back.
Absolutely. And this is a game where you needed Jalen Ramsey, right? He's going to be come back in probably November, December. You really needed Jalen Ramsey on Stephon Diggs. Vic Fangio said that Xavier Howard isn't one of those guys that travel, like, goes with the number one option all over the field. He prefers to stick to one side. And so that's why when That's why you signed Jalen Ramsey, is to go against this Bills team, and without him, yeah, Kader Kohu just got cooked all game long.
Yeah, I mean, he looked tired. That kid looked so fatigued on the sidelines.
And then you see that missed tackle where two Dolphins guys could have stopped Diggs, and he got past him and went for a touchdown.
I mean, that kid is so good on his feet though. Like he's
Yeah,
a hard guy to stop. And I mean they were definitely burnt out there.
yeah. So a huge win for the Bills, statement win, and let's see if they can carry that throughout the season and win that AFC East once again.
Yeah. So let's move on to Broncos beating the Bears. We're our first 0-3 matchup of the week. Broncos pulled it off 31-28 as the clock was winding down, overcame a 21-point deficit to win. The Broncos came in, they had a first quarter touchdown, and then it just went to shit for them. The next 4 possessions totaled 2 second downs and 45 yards total. Their offense wasn't their only weakness, though. So the Denver defense was performing an impressive feat for most of the game. They made Chicago look good, which, is astonishing. They allowed the Bears to score 28 straight points to take a 28-7 lead with 4:11 left in the third quarter. So, I mean, how were you feeling? Like did you think the Bears were going to pull it off?
I had a pretty good idea that the Broncos were going to come back. The Bears defense is terrible. It's soft as tissue paper. Um, you get out to that 28-7, that's awesome. I was mostly happy for Justin Fields that he was looking competent, that he was moving the ball and throwing touchdowns. But I mean, Cole Kmet was wide ass open. The DJ Moore touchdown, I still don't know how we got that because clearly his second foot never touched the ground.
Yeah.
So, but I'll take it. But even at 28-7, I was texting with Stoyo and stuff, and he's like I just feel like we're gonna give it away. And in the second half, even Russell Wilson said, they know we're coming back. He said that on the sideline, and so the Broncos get back into it, pull it off. But really, what bothers me is head coach Matt Eberflus. The Bears, the game's tied at 28. The
Mm-hmm.
Bears have the ball at the Denver 18-yard line with under 3 minutes to go in the game on 4th and 1. And if you kick a field goal there, it's a chip shot field goal, and you can take the lead and put the pressure on the Broncos. Instead, he goes for it, turnover on downs, Broncos go down and take the lead. That to me was the decision of the game, and Matt Eberflus blew the game, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think it was obvious they were going for Herbert there. I mean, Fields had a great game. He posted his
Mm-hmm.
career high 335 yards, completed 80% of his throws, 4 touchdowns. Why aren't you giving him the ball?
Yeah.
Like everyone on that defense expected Herbert to get the ball and he got stuffed. Like
Mm-hmm.
it was sad. I was pretty disappointed in that play call too. I think that was really stupid. Um and I mean that final throw to Cole Kmet that was picked off didn't help, but I mean, they shouldn't have been in that position to begin with.
No, and that's frustrating too. We've seen that, the last 2 years from Justin Fields, where he's got opportunities. You're only down 3. There's time on the clock. If Fields doesn't turn the ball over there, there's still time to get back into field goal range and tie the game and send it to overtime. And he couldn't do it. He turns the ball over. As great as Fields looked for the majority of the game, to turn the ball over in that situation, that's what people are going to remember. And
Mhm.
it's frustrating. Not a lot of good to talk about for the Bears. I felt like Eberflus should have been fired as soon as the clock hit 0. But the problem is, who do you replace him with? Our DC resigned. Our offensive coordinator sucks. Our head coach sucks. I mean, it's pretty bad right now in Chicago. Like, you're kind of stuck with Eberflus, and everyone knows he is way over his head.
Yeah, I mean, I called it a dumpster fire last week, and the game was actually pretty entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
It was a pleasant surprise. I think it was my most surprising game because there were some stupid plays, but it was fun stupid. It wasn't just like one of those long, drawn out, slow deaths. But yeah, Chicago's a hot mess, and I don't know how you guys dig out of this hole at this point.
No, I
Yes.
think it's going to be a long ass season, and I honestly hope it is. Currently, the Bears own the number one and number two overall picks in the 2024 NFL draft. So the Panthers suck. That's a number two pick. The Bears suck. Let's lose out. I don't care. And let's get number one, number two as Jeff Caleb Williams. Let's get Marvin Harrison Jr. or a stud offensive lineman and get a head coach that's competent and start over. I mean, it's clear the rebuild didn't work. Fire Ryan Poles, fire Eberflus, clean house, and start over. But we know the Bears are a dumpster fire. Russell Wilson, Sean Payton, and the Broncos, that's a big ass win for them to get down 3 scores, stay resilient, get back into that, and get a big win. And now you're 1-3. Maybe you can build on it.
Yeah, that was, the first win for Sean Payton as their head coach, and it's tied for the second largest comeback win on the road in the Broncos history. So it was definitely a good win for them starting out. I mean, maybe they can carry that momentum on.
Yeah.
Um, I know, they've had some issues with pre-snap penalties. They've been penalized more than any other team at the pre-snap, so they're losing lots of yards that they shouldn't be giving up. Those are just stupid mistakes. But they have, they've got time to build now. Their division is tough. It's hard to compete against, Patrick Mahomes and his Chiefs, but they're not looking so bad after this week, but that might just be a result of playing the Bears.
Yeah, and I'm gonna stand by this though. I do believe I trust Sean Payton. I trust Russell Wilson. They're gonna get it right eventually. It might take a while, but they're gonna get it right. They're gonna get it turned around, and maybe this is step one in that direction.
Yeah, definitely the start of a long road for them, but
Yeah,
it was a step in the right direction for sure.
yeah. How about Ravens Browns? Interesting game here, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone was shocked at the lack of defense for the Browns this week. I mean, I expected a challenge for the offense with Deshaun Watson missing a game, rookie Dorian Thompson-Robinson starting. I expected the offense to, be their biggest issue, but their defense was completely non-existent as well.
Yeah,
Some bad play calling decisions that did not help the rookie out. But I mean, luckily they've got a bye week next week. So Watson's got some extra time to heal up that shoulder and hopefully he comes back after the bye week. But it was a mess for the Browns. How
yeah.
do you feel about the Ravens in this game?
The Ravens look great, to go up against a really tough Browns defense, number one across the board in Cleveland, and put up 28 points is always a win. We see this from time to time. We know the Jets are a solid defense, and they lose Aaron Rodgers, and it's like when you don't have that star quarterback that you trust and feel like is going to keep you in games, even a great defense can kind of be like, well, what's the point? Like Dorian Thompson Robinson isn't going to, he put up 3 points. Like, are we going to shut out Lamar and this excellent Ravens offense? So I think the Browns are still a great defense. They just had a bad day. And I agree with you. They need Deshaun Watson back ASAP. Tough loss to fall to 2-2. You can't have Watson missing big divisional games if you're gonna win the division or go into the playoffs, right?
Yeah, that was definitely not a matchup where they wanted to be without their starting quarterback.
Yeah,
Um, but I mean, it was one week. They've got a week to recover, so I'm gonna withhold judgment for the Browns for now.
yeah,
Um, I mean, the Ravens, Jackson finished with 4 total touchdowns, only 4 incompletions on the day, which was amazing. He, handled that game. I think he won it for them for sure. And he and Mark Andrews have had some rocky passes so far this season, and they seem to have worked out their kinks this week. He got 2 touchdown throws. He did great under pressure. Um, Jackson
hmm
was 8 of 9 passes for 136 yards. I think they've worked out some of their kinks, and I expect to see the Ravens keep rolling. Lamar Jackson had his first career game with 2+ passing touchdowns and 2+ rushing touchdowns on Sunday. Also, the first game by any player in the NFL since 2000 this year, and only the second time that a Ravens quarterback has done it. So I think
nice.
Ravens have found their stride, and they're gonna keep going.
Yeah, I mean, how about this Ravens team? I said it in the offseason. with the moves they made, this is a Super Bowl caliber team on paper. And going in, it was a very tough division, right? But the
Hmm.
Bengals don't look that good. They just beat the Browns in Cleveland. The Steelers don't look that good. Right now, the Ravens are right in the driver's seat of this division. And if Lamar can stay healthy, how far can this Ravens team go? I mean, that's an excellent defense. Roquan Smith played great on Sunday as well. This
Yeah.
Ravens team looks for real.
Yeah, I think it's going to be between them and the Browns as long as, that Watson injury clears up and isn't one of those nagging injuries that lasts throughout the season. I think if he clears up and he's back healthy, it'll come down to the two teams.
Yeah, and the Browns lose Nick Chubb, another good thing for the Ravens. It sucks for the
Yeah.
Browns, but um, real quick, Cleveland Sports Talk on Twitter tweets pregame, DTR is about to ball out today, and Browns fans will be like, "Why we signed that Watson bro for 5 years?" How about a cold tweet?
Oh my goodness.
Really bad.
Ugh.
Um,
Worse than our takes this week.
Speaking of the Bengals, a big game, 1-2 Bengals at the 1-2 Titans. The Bengals had bounced back on Monday Night Football, prime time for everyone to see against the Rams, got their first win of the year. So there was reason for optimism in Cincy. They go into Tennessee, and that optimism is out the door as they get blown out 27-3 by the Titans.
Yeah.
Derrick Henry looked vintage, not only running the ball, stiff arming people, but he throws a touchdown pass as well. And Joe Burrow and that Bengals offense looked really bad. What did you think from this game?
I mean, I picked the Bengals to win this one. I thought Joe Burrow is the type of guy who will just mentally push himself through an injury and put up great numbers despite, being sore and probably should have taken the week off. But
Mm-hmm.
I had faith in Joe Burrow. Last week I didn't. So I figured, this week I'd give it a shot. Completely wrong. I mean, the game started slow. I didn't think it was going to be a blowout like it was. I mean, they traded field goals and then it was just punt after punt after punt. And then the Titans took over. They scored, I mean, those 70 plus 80 drives for those three touchdowns back to back to back. I mean, yeah, that game got out of hand very quickly because I had tuned out from that game thinking it was just going to be, 6-6 at the half by the way it looked in the first quarter. And I flipped
Yeah.
back to it and I was like, what the hell did I miss?
Well, credit to the Titans defense. Their D line was getting after Joe Burrow, and maybe the Bengals have some issues on the O line. And we know that Burrow isn't as mobile as he usually is with that injury. But you think about Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, Joe Mixon, those weapons, you expect the Bengals to put up some points. To be held to just 3 points, Joe Burrow, no touchdowns, just 165 yards passing. This Bengals offense has some issues, and they need to figure it out ASAP.
Yeah, I agree. And where they have issues on the offense, I mean, the Titans offense was so good. Like Ryan Tannehill's not my favorite quarterback, but he was so
Hmm.
accurate in this game. I mean, 240 yards. He did have one interception, but the only reason they didn't have another touchdown is it slipped through DeAndre Hopkins' fingers in the end zone. Like that should have been another touchdown there.
Yeah.
So I mean, their offense was firing on all cylinders. I
Yeah.
think that I might have underestimated the Titans this year. So I'll be interested to see how their next few games play out. But I know you
Yeah.
have faith in the Titans coming into this game, and I didn't. So what were you feeling? What made you pick the Titans here?
Well, so this offseason, a lot of people were just dismissing the Titans like crazy, saying the Titans are not in the hunt for the division at all, and they're not going to be a good team. And I was quick to say pump the brakes because Derrick Henry is still a monster. If you look at his stats, he was like 2,000 yards combined last year. Like he is still damn good. uh, that Tannehill was hurt. That's the reason the Titans were a solid team until Tannehill got hurt last year. A healthy Tannehill, he's not a top 5, top 10 quarterback, but he's decent and he can win you games. He can keep you in games. And then when you add DeAndre Hopkins, he's still a baller too, and he's got some great hands usually. So they've got talent, and they're not the most consistent team. You know, they're kind of up and down, but you can't count this team out. I think they're going to be in the mix and competing with the Jags to see if they who wins that division, that AFC South.
Yeah, I mean, aside from Cincinnati's opening drive and then their final drive where the game was already decided, the Titans defense didn't allow a single drive to go more than 30 yards.
Yeah, you talk
So
about Jeffrey
beyond that,
Simmons.
yeah,
Yeah,
beyond that offense, I mean, that defense was impressive. And the division is tied up 2-2. The whole division are all just sitting there right at 500. So
wow.
it'll be interesting to see how that tie gets broken up and they pull forward with more division games coming up down the line.
Yeah, and it's gonna be. I'm gonna be keeping a close eye on these Bengals too. They're out to a rocky 1-3 start with an injured Joe Burrow, but they play the Cardinals next week. Can they kind of start to turn it around, get to 2-3, maybe get back to 500, and see if they can salvage the season? Because if they can't, that's gonna be something nobody saw coming.
Yeah. Yeah, that'll definitely be a good test game for them. But the Cardinals only beat good teams this year.
Yeah,
So their only win this year was completely shocking against a great defense. So I'm just gonna assume the Bengals are gonna win this one. So
yeah, me too.
all right, let's talk
Uh,
Rams Colts. You picked this one wrong. I got this one right. It was, we finished the week even. Our four matchups that we didn't disagree on, we cut them 2-2. So there's no shit
nice.
talking this week. But I mentioned last week that the Colts had lost 6 straight home games.
Yeah,
So this is now their 7th straight. So the longest home losing streak since they dropped 8 straight in 1991. The Rams started with a 23-0 lead though. So they did put in some effort there to come back and tie it. How did you feel about that? I know your kid Puka went off there.
yeah, Puka went off, but I can't stand this Rams team, and I was loving it. I was all in on these Colts. They were down 23-0. It looked like they were just going to roll over and die. And here comes the rookie, Anthony Richardson, who everyone's talking about CJ Stroud, but Anthony Richardson has been balling and looks like a star in the making. He kept this team in it. He brought them back, and they had opportunities at the end of regulation. Anthony Richardson hits tight end Kylan Granson in the hands. If he catches it, they're in field goal range to win it before overtime. They could have won it right there, but he drops the ball. And you go to OT, and Stafford throws a game winner to Puka Nakua. But this Colts team is surprisingly competitive. Anthony Richardson's playing better than a lot of people thought so early in his career. This Colts team, we got to give them some respect. They might be in the hunt in that division.
I mean, they're another one of these teams that need to put together a full game. I mean,
Yeah.
he looked great for half the game. The first quarter, a hot mess, but I mean, before the half, he had 56 yards that he'd rushed for. He was only 4 of 7 passes for 30 yards before the half, and he came back and just led that team the second half of the game. I don't know what pep talk they had that head coach Steichen came down with and really dialed him in. But I mean, when they came back out after the half, he was a completely different quarterback. So
Yeah.
I think being the rookie and being underestimated so far, I think he's playing as well as can be expected, maybe better than expected. So I've got some faith in him. I think moving forward, he's still young, obviously, and the team has some holes they need to address. But it'll be a good season for him to kind of get in the feel of things and start finding his stride with that offense.
Yeah, and something to keep an eye on. He's been so good already, and they've been doing it with who at running back, right? They're about
Yeah.
to get Jonathan Taylor back. And I was talking about it. Imagine that backfield of Jonathan Taylor and Anthony Richardson. How do you defend that? If they're both healthy and playing at the best of their ability, that could be a scary thing to defend right there.
Oh, I think it'll be beautiful once they get in a stride together. They've
Yeah,
definitely missed Taylor. So I
yeah,
think they're just counting down the minutes till he's back on the field with them.
absolutely. And then, how about Matthew Stafford playing through that hip injury? I mean, he gutted it out, and threw the game winner. I mean, I like to hate on Stafford for throwing picks and whatever, but credit to Stafford for sticking with it, playing through the injury, and getting a big win.
Yeah, I mean, on top of that one hit, he was sacked twice too, and he limped and just looked slow and uncomfortable the entire rest of the third quarter into the fourth quarter. I think, the game could have had a bigger lead there at the end. I don't think it would have gone to overtime if he was comfortable.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, I'm proud of him. I hated him in Detroit. I thought he was, mediocre, very typical Detroit quarterback, but I've been impressed with him with the Rams. He's got much more of a strong mindset than I would have guessed previously.
Hmm.
I mean, we talked about this for a couple weeks now. I think the placement where he is now is definitely bringing out his best characteristics. He
Yeah.
didn't miss a single snap of the game. He, took that hit and came back in. He completed 4 of his 5 overtime passes. Nakua for that walk-off winner that you mentioned. I mean, I think he's the real deal, as much as it pains both of us to admit. Um, and Kyron Williams rushing for the Rams, he's been putting up some numbers too, pretty quietly.
Yeah, he's a good running back, and um out of Notre Dame, and he's filled in nicely. You know, they trade away Cam Akers, and Kyron Williams really hasn't missed a beat. But a big win for the Rams. I mean, you think about the difference between starting 1-3 and 2-2. That's a big difference, and so big win. Credit to the Rams, and we'll see how they're going to get Cooper Kupp back soon too to go with Nakua. So we'll see. We'll keep a close eye on this Rams team as well. But tough division with the Seahawks and the 49ers.
Yeah, it's definitely a really challenging division to be in, especially with the Niners. And I mean, it's been like that forever though. But a few years back, it was the Cardinals missing the playoffs with 10 wins because the Niners and Seattle are in the division.
Yeah,
So now it's the Rams in that spot, because I don't think it's going to be the Cardinals this year. But that division is challenging, and they always produce a lot of postseason caliber teams.
yeah.
So they'll need to take out one of the other teams in order to have a shot.
Absolutely. Credit to your boy Baker Mayfield. He woke up feeling dangerous. This is a game we disagreed on, especially when Derek Carr decided, was cleared to play and Alvin Kamara back from suspension. I was all in on the Saints team at home. This Saints team was beating Tom Brady when he was on the Bucks at home. So I was confident in the Saints, and Baker comes in and stuns them 26-9. He looked great on Sunday. Credit to you for never doubting in that kid, believing in him. Baker still got it, and the rest of the country need to wake up and start giving Baker some due because Tampa's 3-1.
Yeah, I mean, I've picked them to go 3-1. I had, their loss the wrong week this year, but the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they're looking pretty good. I know you hate when I call them that, but I have to this week. That kid has so much energy and so much passion, and I swear it's contagious, because I've seen him come off a big play and go to the sidelines, and he is the most hype, and then on the next play, everybody else is rallying him around him. I think his energy level and his dedication are wearing off on the rest of the team, and I love that for him. I think he was underutilized and underappreciated on his previous teams, and I'm so glad that he's found a spot that can use him and is, helping him be what I've always thought he could be. He completed 25 of 32 passes for 246 yards and 3 touchdowns. He rushed for
Yeah,
31 yards. I mean, they ended the Saints franchise record of allowing 20 points or fewer. They had 21 straight games where they only allowed 20 points or less, and the Bucks blew that out of the water.
yeah. Credit to him. Big road win in the division rivalry game. Great win. The Saints kind of disappointed me, but I mean, Tampa Bay doing their thing, and credit to the Bucks defense as well. They got some studs over there. Antoine Winfield Jr. played great. You got Levante David, Devin White, Vita Vea. The Bucks defense. A lot of people are sleeping on them. We need to start giving Tampa Bay some more credit going forward.
Oh yeah, I mean Antoine Winfield Jr. He had 9 tackles, 1 sack, 2 tackles for loss, 1 forced fumble, a fumble recovery, and a very important pass deflection. I mean, he
Yeah,
was he was huge in keeping Kamara from, getting any of those big Alvin Kamara like plays that you expect him to pull off. He broke up a deep ball to Chris Olave in the end zone as well, and the strip and recovery of Adam Prentice's fumble. I mean, he was on it the entire game. And I think the Saints' longest play all game was 20 yards. So I think
wow.
so much credit needs to go to the Bucks in this game. Obviously, I love Baker Mayfield and I will always be on the offense, but that defense played beautifully.
Yeah. And I've been a Winfield Jr. fan since going back to Minnesota in college, so love to see that. Let's go Commanders, Eagles. The Eagles stay undefeated, but it was a much, we were talking about a blowout, and
Mhm.
this was a much better game than we thought. Sam Howell throws the game tying touchdown as time expires in regulation. Sam Howell bounces back in a big way from those 4 interceptions against Buffalo. And the Eagles win on Jake Elliott's game winning 54-yard field goal, but an actually pretty damn good game.
Yeah, it was way more competitive than I predicted. It was really, I think it was the most entertaining game of the week. So I'm very glad we were wrong about that one.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I thought Sam Howell would be limping into this week after last week's beating. I mean, 9 sacks, 4 interceptions. I thought he was going to be the shallow, hollow man. Like, I thought he was going to just be beat to shit and have bandages. But he came in with a chip on his shoulder and it paid off. He finished the game 29 of 41 passing for 290 yards and a touchdown. He ran for 40 yards. I mean, early on, the Commanders protected him better than the week before, so he was able to get the game going a lot sooner than he has previously. And there were some gorgeous passes deep. He hit
Yeah.
huge completions to Pringle, Brown, McLaurin, and with the game clock just above 0, Dotson for the game tying touchdown, which put them 1 point down. And I don't know if you agree with me on this, but if I was coaching, I would have gone for 2 there for the winner instead of taking it into overtime.
Yeah, you're on the road. What have you got to lose? You shouldn't be in this position anyways. You don't want Jalen Hurts, DeAndre Swift, AJ Brown on the field. So let's
Mhm.
end it now. And then Ron Rivera had some stupid explanation for why they didn't. He said something like, "Oh, I thought we were tired after the long drive or something." It's like, what are you talking about? If you're tired, then the Eagles defense is tired. That's a terrible explanation.
Okay, and
Ron,
then tying it to go into overtime means you're going to be playing longer. It could be one
yeah,
more play or it could be multiple. What that was, I didn't even hear
yeah.
that. I'm just so irritated by that now.
Yeah, Ron Rivera, I've had a lot of questions about him of late. I think they need to hand the reins over to Eric Bieniemy and
Hmm.
you know, let Rivera do something else for a while. But the Eagles talent won in the end. I mean, AJ Brown is so hard to cover. 9 catches, 175 yards, 2 touchdowns. He's an absolute monster. So
Yeah,
in the
but that
end,
this is the first week where he's put up numbers like that. Really,
yeah.
I mean, Jalen Hurts and him, they've had some kinks this season, and he's gradually getting better. They're gradually getting in sync with each other. But this is how they should have been playing all season, and their
Hmm.
numbers have not, their connection has not looked like that so far. So this is the first week where he and Jalen Hurts are connecting as they ought to be.
And that's scary for the rest of the league because you're 4-0 and haven't been connecting the right way. That team is so loaded with talent. They're going to be tough to deal with all season long.
Yeah. And that defense, I mean, they got the ball back after holding the Commanders to a 3-and-out in overtime, and the Commanders never saw the ball again. So
Yep,
they're good on both sides of the ball. So
absolutely.
they're gonna be tough, and that division is gonna be getting a beating.
Yep.
All right, so talk to me
um,
about Panthers. We beat the
yeah.
Vikings 21-13. We both picked this game. I mean, y- we thought it was gonna be one of those toss-up shit show games. How did you feel after this one?
So at first, I mean, the Vikings looked terrible in the first half. Kirk Cousins had 2 really bad interceptions. One was a pick six. And it looked like the Vikings were gonna just give it away again and start 0-4. but they finally figured it out in the second half, pulled away, get the win 21-13. They beat a bad team, but I'm going to be hating on this Vikings team all season long because they got rid of Dalvin Cook. And in my opinion, that's huge. And people can look at Dalvin Cook's stats on the Jets and say, oh, he's not the same player that he was anymore. Kirk Cousins isn't the same player because he doesn't have a guy like Dalvin Cook. Why are
Mhm.
you trading for Cam Akers after all this talk about how Alexander Madison is going to fill in and not miss a beat without Dalvin Cook? Like, come on now. So the Vikings have some issues. They're super unbalanced, and that does not bode well for Kirk Cousins. They get a win against a terrible Panthers team. Like you, I agree with you saying Andy Dalton is the better quarterback than Bryce Young right now in Carolina. I
Mhm.
agree with that. The Panthers look terrible in this game, and a battle of two bad teams.
Yeah, but it's really tough to gauge Bryce Young's development so far because, I mean, it's early in his rookie season, first of all. And second, he's under constant pressure. That O-line barely does anything to help him. And I don't
Yeah.
think he has enough weapons to actually get the ball to anyone. So I don't know if he's a good quarterback because the team is not building enough around him to let him utilize his skills.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
And yeah,
I was just gonna say he was sacked to end their last attempt to come back in the game. Like you can't let your kid get sacked when there's a shot of you coming back in the game. And I mean, they let him get beat up, and it's just so annoying to watch. I mean, 4th and goal from the 18-yard line. Another sack of Bryce. Like, come on, you guys got to protect that kid. And it's so frustrating to watch them because if he had more time to throw the ball, then he
yeah.
would I mean the game could have gone very differently, but they just let him get beat up every week after week.
And it's not just that, it's incompetence across the board. Frank Reich called a play for Adam Thielen, and then he
Mhm.
realized that Adam Thielen wasn't on the field. Like, Frank Reich was terrible with the Colts, and he's terrible with the Panthers. He's a bad head coach. And you got a line that can't protect Bryce Young. Um, it's bad all around. What's his name? Brian Burns was wanting to be traded before the season started. You traded away your best receiver, DJ Moore, to get Bryce Young. It's just a lot of bad in Carolina right now.
I will say that Sam Franklin Jr.'s 99-yard pick six was the longest defensive score in Carolina history. So
Damn.
the Panthers did have one little, bright spot of sunshine in a day of a beatdown.
That was such a terrible pick six too.
So
That's like
bad.
something you see like when you're playing with your against your friend in Madden and you make fun of them like what the hell are you doing? Like terrible.
Yeah.
But at least the Vikings got the win. Harrison Smith, the veteran safety, 3 sacks in the game, two on the final possession for the Panthers. So Harrison Smith plays a good game.
Yeah, I mean the Vikings definitely were the better team in this matchup, but they are so bad at getting penalties, stupid penalties at the worst times. I mean,
Hmm.
they were trying to give that game away. They had 7 penalties for 37 yards. I swear every time I was like, "Oh, this is a perfect shot for, the Vikings to pull ahead and to, put this one in the bag." And it was just a stupid penalty every time. I don't like
Yeah.
it's like they had money on Carolina to win or something.
Yeah, and I got some questions about the Vikings coaching staff as well. And so we'll see. I don't think the Vikings are a good team this year. I think their ceiling is 8 wins and probably more likely 6 or 7. So that's a big drop off after winning 13 last year.
Yeah, I mean, our division was a hot mess last year. So, I mean, they're
Yeah,
starting out 1-3, so 8 seems like a challenge so far.
yeah. Um, let's go Steelers Texans and the surprise of the weekend. We
Yeah,
both picked the Steelers, right?
we did, and they got their butts kicked 30 to
I mean,
6.
16-0 at halftime, 30-6 the final. Kenny Pickett gets injured. Terrible game for the Steelers. Mike Tomlin says post game there are going to be changes. OC Matt Canada under fire. Like the fans can't stand Matt Canada. He's a He's been a punchline for 2 years now. Um, and credit to CJ Stroud and this Texans team on both sides of the ball. The Texans are better than we thought. 2-2 and a big win, impressive win against the Steelers. They made JJ Watt proud.
Yeah, I mean, I think CJ Stroud is getting comfortable. He's finding his stride. I mean, he
Mm-hmm.
306 yards. I mean, his offensive weapons are getting open and he's connecting with them. I think you liked him in the draft more than I
Mm-hmm.
did. He wasn't one of my favorites, but I think he's proven himself. Their offensive coordinator seems to be really working with him. Bobby Slowick, I think he's keeping him calm under pressure, and I saw him hyping him up on the sidelines too. And I think it's a good fit for him. I know you mentioned Kenny Pickett leaving the game for the Steelers to have that X-ray on his knee. He was seen without a brace and walking without a limp yesterday, but we had some news about who's starting this weekend.
I didn't see that. Who is starting this weekend?
Your boy Mitch.
Hell yeah, let's go.
Yeah, we're gonna see if he was worth re-signing. He's got a chance to prove himself. So
Week
minute to minute
5,
Mitch over here. Yep. So
Trubisky at the Falcons. So Trubisky
Mhm.
against Desmond Ritter.
So
Or
we get
no,
some.
Steelers. Steelers. I don't know what I'm thinking. So Lamar Jackson at Mitch Trubisky and the Steelers. That's a tough game for Mitch going against his former teammate Roquan Smith.
Yeah, that'll be fun. And I'm excited to see Mitch play. Obviously not excited that Kenny Pickett has an injury, but yeah, we love our boy Mitch. So it'll be nice to see
Yeah,
him back on the field. And I mean back to CJ Stroud. I want to, I want to be right about him so bad, but I mean he continues to surprise me week after week. It's his third consecutive game with over 250 passing yards. Um, no interceptions, 2+ passing touchdowns. It's the longest streak by any rookie since 1970.
yeah. I mean, and credit to Nico Collins has been a guy that not a lot of people talk about. That's been the number one wide receiver there and has been
Yeah.
a safety go-to weapon for CJ Stroud.
Mm-hmm.
168 yards, 2 touchdowns.
Seven
And I mean,
catches.
yeah. And then they drafted rookie Tank Dell. Robert Woods is solid. John Mechie. They brought in Dalton Schultz from the Cowboys. They got weapons. Damian Pierce. That's such a better situation than what Bryce Young is working with in Carolina.
Yeah, I think they're definitely outmatched in Carolina, but I think, man, they've done a great job of supporting CJ Stroud and where he's at right now.
Yeah, credit to rookie head coach D'Amico Ryans too.
Yeah, lots of rookies and they're in the trenches together, and it's
It's working
paying
out.
off.
It's
It's paying
rare.
off.
You
Yeah,
don't usually see that in the NFL, but it's nice to see 2-2, and we'll see if they can keep building.
yeah, agreed. All right.
Um,
Raiders Chargers. I know we both picked the Chargers here. They beat the Raiders 24-17. Our first afternoon game. How did you feel about this one? Justin Herbert in there.
with Jimmy G out, and then they announced rookie Aiden O'Connell getting his first career start. This was an easy decision to go Chargers. It's closer than I thought it was going to be. Uh, but to me, the story of this game, another gem that the Bears let get away. Khalil Mack, 6 sacks and 2 forced fumbles, not on the season, in the game. Khalil Mack with Madden numbers out there.
Mm-hmm.
Game wrecking. Can you imagine you're a rookie Aiden O'Connell, it's your first career start, and you got Khalil Mack sacking you 6 times? Oh my God.
So I predicted 2 Khalil Mack sacks and 2 others from someone else, but Khalil Mack made me look bad, so I will eat my words on that one. But he joined Hall of Famer Derek Thomas as the only 2 players in NFL history with multiple games of 5+ sacks. And Mack became the 6th player since sacks were officially recorded in 1982 to finish the game with 6. So
Wow.
he is in very elite company, and that poor rookie. I just want to give him a hug after the game. He looked so lost and so confused.
I
I
mean,
mean, he just,
yeah.
ugh, he just
It
was confused and lost. And I think he was outplayed and overcoached and not. I don't know. He is not ready to be a backup quarterback.
No, it's a tough spot to go. I mean, imagine they're like, you're gonna get the start. You got Khalil Mack on one side, Joey Bosa on the other. Good luck. You
Yeah,
know,
it was a
and
tough
Josh
game.
McDaniels is your offensive coordinator. Like,
Poor bastard.
um,
I will say this was a slower game for Justin Herbert. He's thrown for 220 plus yards in each of his first 3 games this season. He completed 13 of 24 passes for 167 yards. So the
yeah,
Chargers won, but they did not play well. There was one
yeah,
really ugly interception. The Raiders, got a little boost in attempting their comeback there. Um, Herbert ended the game with the glove on his left hand and a splint on his left middle finger. He ended up shifting to the shotgun position and staying there for the remainder of the game. So I think, yeah, they pulled the win off, but they've definitely got some issues to address moving forward.
oh yeah, definitely. And without it sucks, you got Mike Williams, one of your go-to weapons, out for the year. No Austin Eckler in this game, the safety blanket, running back, check down guy. So now he's injured a little bit. I mean, I was never high on the Chargers going into the year, and now that he's banged up a little bit, I think it's going to be tough. The Chargers might sneak into the playoffs, but I don't think they do. I think they're a 9-8 team that misses the playoffs. And Brandon Staley still sucks. So
I was just going to ask you about him. So they didn't convert. He went for it on 4th and inches in Chargers territory late in the fourth quarter. According to the stats, Staley's a big stats guy. It was the optimal call, but it's the second consecutive week in which he went for it on 4th and whatever because the stat said so and they failed to convert and still snuck off a win. One of these
he's
days, it's going to bite him in the ass.
oh yeah, it's bit him in the ass so many times. I mean, he's gotten away with it a couple times,
Yeah,
but
the
it's
last
bit
2 weeks
him.
for sure.
Yeah, and he's gonna go down with that ship. He's an analytics guy, and he's gonna keep doing it. And guess what? He's never gonna win a playoff game, and he's never gonna do anything with one of the best quarterbacks in the entire league. So enjoy that, Brandon Staley. Go back to being a coordinator and let somebody who's smart run a team, because these analytics decisions, like we talked about with OJ McDuffie and Mike Carney, you ask any former player about these decisions and they laugh and say, "Yeah, you're costing your team with these decisions." And
Mhm.
it makes, like, you got nerds sitting behind a computer telling you it's the right decision to make. Anybody that's played the game will tell you, no, don't do that.
Yeah. I
So
think I think it's interesting to hear from the analytics team versus the people who have actually, been on the turf playing, what
yeah,
the difference of opinions is. Because I mean, some of these coaches, like you have never played a game of football in your life. Like I can tell.
yeah.
So it's definitely interesting to see. But speaking of nerds who think they know what they're talking about, let's talk about you and I picking the Patriots over the Cowboys. I mean, the Cowboys
Yeah.
were pissed about losing to the Cardinals last week, and they took it out on the Pats. They handed Bill Belichick his largest defeat in his 29-year head coaching career. They beat him 38-3. How are you feeling about that ass kicking we got?
So I'm worried about the Patriots. I officially am. Like, they're 1-3. They've lost a couple games they shouldn't have, and they weren't even competitive in this game. It was disgusting. I was at my friend Josh's expecting to see a good game, and I was thoroughly disappointed. Um, I'm in the bench Mac Jones camp. I'm benching Mac Jones. I'm going with Bailey Zappi, who came in and provided a spark last season. He's 2-0 as a starter. The fans were cheering him on. Give me Bailey Zappi. Mac Jones has started too many games in the NFL to look as bad as he did on Sunday.
Yeah,
And
I mean, they let Dallas's defense score twice in the first half of the game.
yeah,
It's
he
one
looked
thing when the
terrible.
offense is beating you up, but when their defense is taking a ball that you can't control and scoring on you, it's really hard to get back on top of the game. Although 28-3 at the half, we'd seen that story before with Belichick. So I thought, it was gonna be another Bill Belichick classic, but it was not.
No, Mac Jones is is nowhere near Tom Brady. And a lot of people are talking about the Patriots don't have the talent to compete with these teams. I disagree. I think the Patriots are plenty talented. I just think Mac Jones sucks. Put Bailey Zappi in there and watch the offense take off. I swear. And so I want to see the switch. I want to see them go to Bailey Zappi. And I'm worried about Bill Belichick. If he doesn't make a change, he's going to get fired. And that's unprecedented. Like, can you imagine Bill Belichick, of all people, getting fired?
Almost
But
30 years of being a head coach. That's insane.
yeah, but you missed the playoffs this year. I think it's time.
Yeah, I mean they did bench Mac Jones for Bailey Zappi in the game, so I'm intrigued to see if he holds on to the Mac Jones is our guy thing after the next couple weeks to see how they play.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
think it's
how far are you gonna fall? You can't 1-4. That's about it. You don't want to. You don't want to start 1-4 or 1-5. 1-3 is already bad enough.
yeah. I
And
mean,
then on top of it, Matthew Judon, their best pass rusher, 28 sacks the last 2 seasons. He's expected to miss 2 months with a biceps injury.
yeah. I mean the blocking during the game was abysmal, and losing him is just going to add to the amount of shit show that they are right now.
Yeah,
And I mean, I know that you and I want to talk shit and hate on the Cowboys, but they're good. Like
they
they in
are.
the past 3 wins for this season, they've outscored their opponents 108 to 13.
Damn. They're good. They're good. They're very talented. It sucks losing Trayvon Diggs, but they're very talented. Dak is kind of up and down though. And here I'll go ahead and say this: we're not going to be praising the Cowboys next week. They're going to
Okay.
lose this weekend.
Well, and I will say, obviously, this wasn't an issue against the Patriots this week, but when a good opposing team shows up, their red zone
Hmm.
offense needs to improve. And I've harped on this every week so far. Through 4 weeks, Dallas is 7 of 19 in the red zone.
Yeah,
They've
I
moved the
know.
ball between the 20s, earning 377 yards, 22 first downs, but they're going 8 of 15 on third down conversions. I
Yeah,
mean, you play shitty teams, you can still pull off a win, but when you play someone who's going to be, a solid competitor, that red zone, that's going to be your best friend, and you can't get there and be less than 50% effective.
absolutely. And Jerry Jones has made it very clear: playoffs are not the goal. Winning one playoff game is not the goal. Super Bowl or bust there in Dallas, and you better iron these issues out in the regular season while you still can, until you get to the playoffs and they bite you in the ass like it's done the last 3-4 years in a row.
I think this matchup with the in San Francisco this weekend will be a nice dose of reality for them.
Absolutely, yeah. Speaking of the Niners, they play a bad Cardinals team, and they allow the Cardinals. They get out to a 21-3 lead. The Cardinals actually come back, make it 21-16, but the Niners are able to pull away and win 35-16, their 14th straight regular season win. And all those people that were saying Christian McCaffrey was a bad trade to the 49ers, go ahead and delete your account. Go ahead and shut your mouth. Christian McCaffrey, 4 touchdowns, 177 yards, and Brock Purdy throws 20 for 21. Brock Purdy has come in and been the most efficient quarterback in the NFL since going to the 49ers. It's crazy.
Yeah, the Niners scored on every possession in the first half, other than when they kneeled going into halftime. That's insane. I mean, after
Yeah.
missing last week, Ayuk returned. I mean, he gave that offensive boost. I mean, George Kittle and Deebo Samuel were combined for 1 catch.
Yeah.
They were complete non-factors, which is insane because they're amazing players, but they just were not needed. I mean, McCaffrey, insane. 4 touchdowns in a game is insane. Um, and I shout out to the Cardinals for trying to make it a game though. I mean,
Hmm.
they gritted their teeth and tried to come back in that one. And, it looked like they had a bright spot there. Michael Wilson hauled in his first 2 NFL touchdowns. He had some other great
Yeah.
catches.
He's a
Good
good
third
rookie.
down. Yeah, he
Yeah.
was great for a rookie. Great third down conversion. So I think, they've got a solid offensive weapon they're building there. Um, I mean, yeah. So shout out to the Cardinals for making it a game for a second there. Obviously, it got away from them, but the Niners are the better team, and the Cardinals still put up a fight. So I'll give them kudos for that for sure. Um,
Yeah. To
And I mean,
me,
oh, go ahead.
sorry, to me, the 49ers and the Eagles, it's the same story. It's an embarrassment of riches. They are absolutely two just loaded with talent teams. Like you said, Debo and Kittle barely do anything, and you still put up 35 points and win easily. Like, uh, I just think it's inevitable that as long as they're healthy, it's Eagles 49ers NFC Championship game, and I can't wait. I hope that we got robbed of a great game last year when Purdy got hurt, and I just
Mhm.
want to see a healthy matchup and see who wins this year.
Yeah, especially with the Niners being able to stop 2-point conversions with only 10 men on the field.
Yeah,
I think they definitely have more than enough talent if they don't need all of their players.
Notre Dame needs to take a page from the 49ers.
Yeah. Random fact that I just thought was interesting. The first 6 touchdowns in the game were scored by Stanford players. 4 by
Damn,
McCaffrey and 2 by Michael Wilson. All
there you
Stanford.
go.
All Stanford
Now,
TDs.
now the Cardinals just need to sign Andrew Luck.
Yeah, we'll see. It might be an improvement at this point.
Yeah. Um, let's go Sunday Night Football. A lot of people expected this to be a blowout, but with the comments from Broadway Joe, I was rooting for Zach Wilson. I was hoping that he would have a bounce back game, and he did. The Chiefs jump out to a 17-0 first quarter lead, and it looked like the blowout was on. But the Jets come rallying back, tie the game at 20-20, and the Chiefs hang on to win, but the only reason they hang on to win is with some help from the NFL officiating. Those damn zebras had to make sure that Mahomes wins and Kelsey wins on Taylor Swift night. Can't have the Chiefs lose like that.
I mean, they were definitely invasive in that game, but
Yeah.
a bright spot for Zach Wilson. It was the first time in his 9-year career that Patrick Mahomes was outplayed by the opposing quarterback. No one
Damn.
expected the first person to do that to be Zach fucking Wilson. I mean,
Yeah.
he had more completions, more passing yards, more touchdowns, fewer interceptions. I mean, Mahomes finished 18 of 30 for 203 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions.
Should have
Wilson,
been three.
it should have
Yeah.
been 3. Yeah, they called that one back. That was bullshit. Uh,
Yeah.
Wilson finished 28 of 39, 245, 2 touchdowns. I mean, the only spot that Mahomes was better besides winning the game was he rushed more yards. But I mean, we know how Mahomes is on his legs anyway. But
Mm-hmm.
I love that Mahomes gave him the support after the game. Like they hugged after the game, and Mahomes said to him, "You've got the fucking talent. Just go out there and ball." Which
Yeah.
I think is a great shout out for Wilson, who came into a spot where nobody wanted him on the field. Nobody wanted to see Zach Wilson in New York. They wanted Aaron Rodgers. And he has come in and he has fucking filled the shoes and played his fucking heart out. And that loss had to sting because he played so well, and yet they still couldn't pull it off.
Well, I mean, when the refs rob you of a game, Robert Saleh was pissed. You see that penalty he got
Oh
on
yeah.
once the Chiefs picked up that first down. I don't blame him at all. So first of all, the Sauce Gardner holding call was one thing, and that was bad. That was bad. It was bailout. That was an interception. It should have been Jets ball with a chance to go tie the game, and everyone wanted to see Zach Wilson try to go tie the game. Instead, they bail him out with that penalty. But one of Mahomes' big ass runs, a 3rd and 22, where Mahomes runs for like 25 and picks up the first down. They were holding the Jets defender for like 10 seconds. Obvious holding, and the refs just never threw the flag.
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand it. Like, yes, the Chiefs are great. They're talented as hell. Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in football. But do we really need to bail them out every chance we get? Do I need to go back to that Chiefs Eagles Super Bowl and talk about that holding call that they
Mhm.
called? I mean, come on now. I'm tired of it. Just
Well, when
because
your
it's Taylor
receivers
Swift night. Yeah, go
I was
ahead.
just gonna say when your receivers can't fucking catch anything. The Kansas City receivers only had 7 catches for 65 yards. So
Yeah.
the refs had to step in and pull off the win there because they had all the celebrities there. Like Wolverine was there, Deadpool was there, Sansa Stark was
Yeah.
there. But yeah, I was
Yeah.
getting pissed off. And in my household, you don't root for the Chiefs. My husband is a Broncos fan. He fucking hates Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
But I picked them to win.
Hmm.
And As much as I wanted to be right, fuck that. Those refs were so intrusive on that game. I was getting pissed off, even though it meant that I would have been wrong, but the Jets should have won that game.
Well, all the celebrities were there, all the actors were there, and that game looked scripted. I'm just gonna leave it at that.
Hmm.
Um, on top of worse, it didn't get any better post game as NBC's Rodney Harrison calls Zach Wilson garbage and says he's, quote, he's not special, drawing criticism from a bunch of former players, Rich Gannon, Nick Ferguson, Matt Leinart, among many others, who are like, Rodney, act like a former player. You don't say that. You don't throw someone under the bus like that. Rodney Harrison, apologized for it the next day, but he was like trying to get Chris Jones to make a headline and say something negative. And credit to Chris Jones, credit to Patrick Mahomes. The Chiefs players were classy about it, but it's like, what are you doing? Like, that's a terrible look for Rodney Harrison.
Especially in a game where he outplayed Patrick Mahomes. He's the first quarterback to ever do that. So if you want to talk shit about Zach Wilson, do it in a game where he plays like shit.
Yeah,
Like the
I
whole
mean,
Chiefs team rallied around at the end of the game and they're like, you guys played a great game. Like it was close. You put up much more of a fight than we thought you were going to. So people trying to get involved and start fights and just entrap people into saying shit
yeah,
that's going to cause social media frenzy, that pisses me off. Like Zach Wilson played a hell of a game. Love the guy, hate the guy, whatever. He's a kid and he's fucking trying. And he played a damn.
yeah. Absolutely. You're 100% right. And it's all about timing, right? If Rodney Harrison had said any of those comments last year when Zach Wilson was playing like shit, nobody would have cared. But you
Mhm.
say it tonight or Sunday night when Zach Wilson probably played one of the better games of his entire career.
Yeah.
So timing's
Really shitty
everything.
timing. Yep.
Yeah.
Side note, Chiefs head coach Andy Reid. He just
Mhm.
became the fifth NFL coach with 250 regular season wins with that win.
Yeah.
So
He's a hell of
nice
a coach.
milestone for him. Yeah.
Been doing it since Donovan McNabb, Terrell Owens, Eagles.
Yep.
He's an OG.
All right, let's move on to Monday night. You and I disagreed on this one. I picked Seattle, you picked New York. Seattle blew them out 24-3. How are you going to defend that pick now? I want to hear your stance on this.
So, and I said this on the podcast. The only reason I picked this was to try to get up a win over you on our standings. My entire gut, my entire head, everything said Seahawks. Okay.
Yeah, I know.
The Seahawks were the better team. I was excited because Jamal Adams was making his season debut. We hadn't seen him on the field in so long. And then unfortunately, he plays 2 series and gets a concussion. So that sucked. But the Seahawks dominated in a way that we haven't seen in a while. 11 sacks, uh, a pick six, like just destroyed them. Geno Smith looked good. Kenneth Walker looked good. And how about rookie Devin Witherspoon with an incredible performance, 2 sacks and a pick six. He really came onto the scene on primetime on Monday night.
I mean, you and I were messaging about Witherspoon during that game. He was fucking insane. He played
Yeah.
so well. I was impressed with him the entire game. He missed the season opener, lost to the Rams with a hamstring, but since then he's been putting up numbers. He became only the second cornerback since individual sacks were tracked in 82 to have 2+ sacks and a pick six in a single game.
Yeah,
So,
incredible,
I mean, he's been
and
fantastic for them.
and he's a hard hitter too. For a corner, he brings it. He'll knock you out, and I love to see that from a corner. I love what Seattle's building, man. When they traded Russell Wilson, I was like, Seattle's in for a rebuild, and they're gonna suck. Credit to Pete Carroll and John Schneider. They've built up like a Legion of Boom 2.0, and they brought back Bobby Wagner, and Geno Smith is playing probably the best football of his career. I love what they're building out there in Seattle.
Me too. It's really impressive. And being back here, I mean, the last time I lived out here in the, 2012 through 2015,
Uh-huh.
we had Richard Sherman running his mouth about being the best corner in the league. I mean, the Legion of Boom. So it's nice to be back here when they're playing well again, even though I'm not a Seattle fan. But I would love to hear Richard Sherman's take on Witherspoon after this week's performance. I'm pretty curious there. I haven't seen him say
Yeah.
anything about it yet, but I know he's under contract, so he can't run his mouth too much now. But it was a pretty costly win for Seattle. I mean, Jamal Adams with that concussion. We've got Drew Lock, who had to step in after Geno Smith had his knee banged up.
Uh-huh.
I mean, he came back in, but there was some scary moments there for them.
Yeah, and hopefully they can get healthy. Hopefully Jamal Adams doesn't miss much time. Hopefully Geno doesn't miss any time. To me, what stood out to me in this game is I lost some respect for Giants head coach Brian Dable.
Mm-hmm.
And you're getting your ass kicked. This game's over. It's mid fourth quarter. The Seahawks already have 9 sacks at this point, and Daniel in the game. And you're playing behind a patchwork offensive line. It made zero sense to me. It's like you're trying to get Daniel Jones hurt or what? I don't know what the plan is. But Brian Dable, act like the leader of the team, act like a head coach. And what's going to happen if Daniel Jones gets hurt? Your season's done. Like, have some common sense and protect your quarterback and get him the hell out of there. And then he's like throwing a tablet on the sideline. It's like, act like you've been there before. And I know it's only his second year being a head coach, but he lost some points for me based on how he handled it. And to me, the issue was the offensive line, much more so than it was Daniel Jones. He was running for his life.
Yeah. I mean, so far through 4 weeks of football, I would say the Giants have 2 quarters of which they can be proud, and that was in week 2.
Yeah.
It's been tough. I mean, they've been outscored in the first half of all games 77-9 so far this season. I mean, it's been a hot mess. Their defense is fundamentally just a shit show.
Yeah, and hopefully Aziz Ojolari can be healthy and stay healthy. They need him to go with Kayvon Thibodeau. And they got those 2 pass rushers. I'm a big Aziz Ojolari fan. And then they need some pressure from up the middle with those high-paid defensive tackles. But the O-line is struggling. Saquon Barkley's injured. Darren Waller hasn't done much. So the Giants are kind of a mess.
Yeah, and you would think with that Daniel Jones extension that, they would have worked out the kinks and built more around him. But I mean, his first year of it is becoming a nightmare. I mean, once again,
Mm-hmm.
he's not playing well under pressure, and he's under pressure way too much. 2 really ugly interceptions. I mean, it was
Mm-hmm.
reminding me of the Giants from the past decade or so when, we just fumble it away and we're a hot mess all the time. But I mean, it was bad. I
Eli and Peyton were disgusted by that pick six.
It was so bad. I mean, and without Saquon Barkley, like, I don't see anything improving.
What do you think about? We all had questions about Daniel Jones, and then he gets this massive contract, and everyone's going to justify it by saying, well, it's the going rate. It's what you pay starting quarterbacks, franchise quarterbacks. I mean, the Giants obviously, I think right now are second guessing that contract.
Well,
And
they gave him the contract because they made the playoffs last year. They,
yeah,
dug out of the basement and made the playoffs, and they were
but but
riding on that high.
don't you think the reason they made the playoffs last year is because Saquon Barkley had a career season?
Yes,
You
but
know,
when you make the playoffs, who do you pay?
and pay Saquon.
I
Screw
Oh,
the
agreed,
quarterback.
agreed. But the quarterback is the one who gets paid, and whether or
Yeah.
not they deserve all that money, we've seen quarterbacks get overpaid for years.
Yep.
I mean, they made the playoffs, so they paid the quarterback, and it is definitely biting him in the ass here.
Yeah, as it should. So big win. Seahawks get to 3-1. They're going to be a very good team. Pablo, who's been on the show a few times, he thinks the Seahawks can go deep in the playoffs and potentially win the NFC. Do you see that as potential with this team?
I
I mean,
mean, they're
healthy
good.
Legion of Boom? Yeah.
Seattle has some magic Pete Carroll knows what the fuck he's doing. I've seen it year after year. I've seen him come back from 16-point deficits against the Packers in the NFC Championship game. I have seen a lot of good things from Seattle with their head coach. So I think it's going to come down to Philly, Tampa Bay, San Francisco, and Seattle. One of the
Ugh.
four teams is going to the Super Bowl, and I don't think anyone else has a fucking shot.
Go ahead and leave Tampa Bay out of there.
Hey, my Baconeers are making it to deep into the postseason. Just you wait.
The two matchups I can't wait to watch this year, the Seahawks and 49ers play each other twice. Those are going to be great games.
Oh, so good, yeah.
So I can't wait. All right, let's end it on this. Week 5 starts on Thursday night. The 0-4 Bears at the 2-2 Commanders. How do you see this game going?
Oh God, I don't know. I wouldn't say the Bears get their first win, but I mean, the Commanders were better than I thought they. I have no idea. The Commanders are probably going to win, but I mean, the Bears played 40% of a good game this week, so it could go either way. I mean, the Bears are desperate for a win, and the Commanders are definitely very hot and cold. So I don't know.
I'll tell you why it's not going to be close.
Okay.
The Commanders' defense is a lot better than the Broncos. Chase Young is playing. That D-line is nasty. Jonathan Allen, Montez Sweat. The Commanders are going to be all over Justin Fields. The Bears are not going to be able to run the ball. The Bears are going to have a hard time scoring points in this game, in my opinion. The Bears' defense is dog shit. And Sam Howell did what against the Eagles' defense? He threw.
I mean, he took it into overtime.
Stats? Yeah, I mean, he played pretty well, no turnovers. He's going to have a great game on Thursday night. I think the Commanders win by double digits.
Okay, I don't know. See, I'm gonna pick the Commanders, but I don't have any faith in Sam Howell. I think that was a fluke. I think the winds were blowing the right direction, and he woke up on the right side of the bed, and the sun was shining down on him that day. I do not think that is who Sam Howell actually is.
Me neither. I agree.
So, and just the desperation in Chicago at this point. I mean, I think the Commanders are going to win, but it could be one of those games that surprises us.
The Bears are desperate, but they're desperate for the season to end. They're not desperate for a win.
They just want to be put out of their misery at this point.
Yeah, it's bad. It's hopeless there in Chicago right now. So, but great episode. Great having you on, Amanda. Good shit as always.
Yeah, you too. I mean, you need to hop off the podcast and go put your Bears flag at half mast so you can mourn the season.
Man, screw half mast. I'm gonna turn that bitch upside down.
Man, that's just disrespectful.
Appreciate all the support. Man, our subscribers is going crazy. We keep getting more and more subscribers. We love it. We appreciate it. Keep hitting the subscribe button. Keep following along. Let us know what you think of our hot takes and our predictions. And follow along all season long. Hopefully we have a player interview up soon. And stay tuned. Peace out, guys.
Yeah. Everyone keep joining the Facebook page and talk shit to us about our hot takes, because when we're wrong, we are wrong. So we love to hear your opinions on the stuff that we get really wrong and the stuff that we get right. We're always up for some interactions and some shit talking on the Facebook page too.
We're never wrong. What are you talking about?
Okay. Who was gonna beat the Dolphins last week?
I don't remember. All right. Peace out, guys.
Good night.